you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
The US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. Logically Left. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf, and I've got a good show for you. We're going to talk about terrible things, but we're also going to talk about good things. Yes, we have a great story actually out of Utah, of all places. And it relates to what's going on in Texas with the gerrymander. We also have a Federal Reserve official that is standing strong against Trump's attempts to remove her. So I've got that story. We also have Trump, saying, "Hey, you know what? Maybe some of us like a dictator, huh? What about that? Huh? You like dictators? Because I'd totally be a dictator. I mean, I'm not a dictator, but I could be one." Oh boy. So I have that. I'm pretty sure, a lot of the other news channels have already talked about this, but I haven't, so I'm going to, because I think it's really important. And then what we have in the context of, by the way, the story about dictators is about, of course, his attempts to basically send in the military to take over democratic cities, which is, again, horrifying authoritarianism. But in the context of that, okay, I'm going to talk about how much it costs compared to actually housing homeless people. Because there was a study that came out, an analysis of how much we're going to be spending on the militarization of DC and what they're doing to the homeless population of that city. And I'm going to compare it to how much it would actually cost to, solve the problem, the actual problem, okay, which is not crime, okay? Homelessness is a problem. We can solve it, not by doing what we're doing right now. And also, to be fair, not by doing what Democratic governors like Gavin Newsom have been doing as well, and tearing down camps, okay? It actually involves giving people homes, and I'm going to give you the cost about that, on that, because not a lot of people are, okay? I know there's a lot of people that are like, no, we can't just let the homeless people sit in camps. I agree, we should, yes, but you know what we should be doing? Giving them homes, unconditionally, because we can do that as a society. We're able to do that. We have the resources. It's not like resources are limited. No, there's an artificial, and I've went into this before. We have artificial scarcity in this. We have artificial scarcity when it comes to food, because we've got more than enough food. We have artificial scarcity when it comes to water. We have artificial scarcity when it comes to homes. Okay. We have more than enough for everyone. It's just the problem is greed. And I will get into that. You can see I'm pretty passionate about that because there is a lot of bullshit. There is a lot of misinformation. There is a lot of, I've talked about this before, how we have a country that is filled with like Calvinist beliefs, right? That underline a lot of how we view as a society social programs and whether or not somebody is deserving of help. I believe that if you're a human being and you're alive and you need help, then you should get help. Okay, then we should help you. I know, crazy idea, but that's what I believe in.
Pink-haired communist.
Apparently, that's what I would be labeled as. Okay, and I'm sure I've been labeled as far worse. But I want to help people. I want to help everyone, and so we can do that. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna be talking about today. Okay, so these stories, again, some good, some bad. Hopefully you will learn something from this, and maybe I can change some minds. And maybe there'll be some people out there that might not be looking at homeless people quite the same way than they were before. It's a big hope, but I hope we can do that. All right. Anyway, if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Okay, very important that you do so. Consider supporting us on our different platforms, whether it be becoming a member on our YouTube page or our Patreon page, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. And can, support the work that we're doing here, that I am doing here, which is, just trying to educate people. Educate people and spread awareness, and also, maybe humanize people in this era that, where we are where so many groups of people are being dehumanized by the federal government, by the people who are supposed to be our leaders, by the people who are in charge, and by the people who are supposed to be protecting groups like the Democrats, who are not exactly, standing up for homeless people or standing up for transgender individuals. I feel like, that is something that is non-negotiable, something that we need to be doing to stand up for the people who are being victimized all across this great, once great nation of ours. Okay, because it doesn't feel so great now. All right, anyway. Every time, Grant Johnston says absolutely every time they've tried basic income, it was always a big success. But the paid corporate media lies about how it helps the economy also. Yes, exactly. And Charlotte points out the what the conservative argument is, well, if you see someone about to drown, don't help them. They should be learning how to swim. Yeah, it's exactly how they feel about that, too. Exactly how I feel about that. And by the way, I love comments, super chats, all that stuff. I love to read them. Feedback from those of you who are watching. Thank you for that. I do always enjoy the audience interaction with the show. That's one of the reasons that I love actually doing, the live show. And I know I was not doing live show for some time. Burnout is real. But it is good. It is good to be back. It is good to be back and to have that interaction now. That and I missed it. I missed it. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get to the stories, shall we? Oh boy. President Donald Trump is getting a lot of backlash for saying that people, that they want a dictator.
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him, freedom. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person.
Okay, so if you have to say, I'm not a dictator, then that usually means you're probably up to dictator stuff. I'm just saying. I'm saying it, okay? Because like, I mean, who says something like that? Well, maybe we like a dictator. No, we don't. No, we don't. Well, then again, okay, MAGA does. Because they're all in favor of dictators like Donald Trump. And again, we saw, I remember seeing in Charlie Kirk's audience, right? The lady that's like, if we're going to have a dictator, I want it to be Donald Trump. Oh my God. And again, for some reason, they like to, Republicans love to bill themselves as the party of freedom. Now, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're the party of bootlicking. Okay. And that's it. But anyway, what do you mean dictator? What kind of dictator stuff has Donald Trump done? Taking over DC for one, federalizing the police, threatening to do the same to other cities. Like you heard him, Chicago, and not only that, but this man just recently signed an executive order, several executive orders actually, which again is I remember when the right wing whenever President Obama at the time would sign an executive order, King Obama ruling from his throne. What a dictator. Tree of Liberty must be watered in the blood of tyrants. And yet, Trump is basically ruling by executive fiat. All right. So that's what's going on. But anyway, his executive orders got rid of, or would get rid of cashless bail and to criminalize flag burning. Flag burning. All right. Now, here's the thing. That has already been adjudicated in the Supreme Court. There was a decision that said, actually, no, that is part of your free speech. And Trump's like, I don't care about free speech. Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were the free speech guys. Yeah, the free speech warriors. Where are you? You may not like it. I mean, I don't like it personally. I wouldn't want to do it. But that's freedom. That's literal freedom. And by the way, about 20 minutes after he signed this executive order, they arrested a veteran, or maybe it was an hour after. So I don't know the time frame here. But a man who is a 20-year veteran of the military was arrested for flag burning. That is an illegal arrest. That is his constitutional right to burn that flag. Again, something that arresting people for free speech stuff, that's what they do in dictatorships. Just saying. Okay. I mean, not only that, on the same day, Trump also signed an executive order directing Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, to create a specialized National Guard unit in Washington, D.C., and nationwide, trained to handle what he calls public order issues. Public order issues. Basically, the criminalization of protests is what I'm guessing it'll be used as. Which, again, is totally what dictators do. That's what they do. And so, when asked about it, Trump was like, hey, the people, they want this. They want this. And you know what they also wanted? Okay, this is another men and women sports thing. Okay, what? I mean, the comparison there is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, absolutely ridiculous. And again, super transphobic, but what do you expect, right? Now he added, I think the Democrats better get smart. Politically, I hope they don't, but actually, in terms of love for the country, I hope they do, because it would be good to work together. Here's the thing. You can't love the country and criminalize different facets of it. I mean, here's the thing. Immigrants, for example, he is deporting people. deporting people who come to this country. And yes, he has shut off many of the legal avenues for people to come to this country. And you know what? You know who some of the people that love this country the most? Immigrants, because they make this journey to be in this country, to be in America, because they love this place. They love the idea. Okay? And so that's what's going on here. Okay? And it's dictator stuff. But anyway, as far as working together, unless you got like a Medicare for all bill tucked in there somewhere that you're going to sign, we're not at all interested in that. Okay? We're not at all interested in working together with you to criminalize people, to take away fundamental civil rights and freedoms. Not at all interested. Now, at the same time, Vice President J.D. Vance also went after the Democratic governors who criticized Trump for using the National Guard as his police force, right? Now, Vance said, quote, "We want people to welcome us, to ask us." That's not going to happen. You see, we have this little thing called freedom, you know. He added, they're angrier about the fact that the president of the United States is offering to help them. He's not offering to help them. He's shoving these National Guard troops in these cities. Majority black cities, by the way. Okay? Or cities with high black populations. Not a surprise. I mean, is anyone really all that shocked?
The Republican Party's racist.
So they're angry at the fact that the president of the United States is offering to help them get their crime under control than they are about the fact that murderers are running roughshod through their cities and have been for decades. No, that's not what's happening. You see, crime is actually down in D.C. Crime is actually down all over the country. It's been going down. We're actually the safest that we've ever been since the 1960s. All right? I mean, and again, the recent crime numbers that show a massive decrease in crime, they're 2024 numbers, which, I don't know if you know that, but Trump wasn't president in 2024. It was Joe Biden. So that the numbers were crime was going down prior to Trump taking over. So no, he's not going to be able to take credit for that, although he'll probably try. But here's the irony, okay, about this. Here's the irony. The states that have sent their own National Guards to D.C., okay, they actually have higher crime rates than D.C. does. So this is nothing more than a political stunt. And again, southern states, mainly Republican red states, their governors have sent in the guards to D.C., even though their capitals have higher crime rates, of course. Now, cashless bail. I want to get to that executive order. Okay, so now the White House and many Republicans argue that, cash bail, it allows the criminals to be released and back into their communities so they can do more crime. No. The reality here is that there's a number of states that require cashless bail to have exemptions for violent felonies and murder. So if you're, if you're accused of shoplifting or something, then no, you're gonna be able to get out of jail before your trial. You won't have to stay in a jail cell. But if you're a murderer, odds are you're going to be staying in your cell because you're going to be a danger. And by the way, there are states where it is possible for a murder suspect to be freed pending trial without cash bail. But remember, a judge has to make that decision. Okay? Has to look at the evidence here. Okay? And so as a result, it's actually extremely rare that states will allow a murder suspect out of prison. I'm sure it does happen now and then, but It's pretty rare. And of those people, by the way, I could think of someone who maybe, was involved in a crime of passion and maybe shows some deep regret for what they did. And so, that person, yes, might end up being able to get out of jail pending their trial. All right. Because remember, it's not get out of jail free. Okay. It is just, you don't have to spend the time waiting for your trial in a jail cell. Okay. And again, the judge will do a risk assessment to determine whether or not that person needs to be held in jail pending their trial. That's it. If they're a risk, then yeah, they're gonna keep them there. That's it. Now here's the thing. So bail, cash bail, is basically a system that holds poor people in jail, while wealthy people, the wealthy and powerful, if they end up getting arrested, well, they can just keep walking the streets. They can afford to post bond, whereas poor people can't. And what's interesting about that, too, letting the wealthy and powerful who've been accused of crimes continue to walk the streets, is you are more likely as a person to be robbed by a man in a suit than you are robbed by a poor person. I'm just saying. How do you say that? Why would you say that? Wage theft? Wage theft is actually the biggest source of theft in this country. Stealing billions of dollars from working people every year. It actually eclipses all other types of theft out there. Wage theft, look it up. But anyway, another issue with Donald Trump's order is the assumption that no cash bail will increase crime. There are absolutely no statistics out there that back that up. In fact, Cynthia Roseberry, Director of Policy and Government Affairs with the American Civil Liberties Union Justice Division, in a statement shared with Newsweek, said, to further his dangerous performative abuse of power in D.C., President Trump today took another step to make people in our nation's capital less safe by targeting common sense bail reform. These executive orders are another blatant power grab by the Trump administration that will only serve to benefit the predatory bail industry. But the people who will be most impacted are those with the fewest resources. Whether we can afford to pay should never determine our freedom. Yeah. Now, criminal defense attorney Andrew Fleischman on X said cashless bail systems use text messages and pretrial supervision to make sure people come back to court. They work as well or better than bail systems. Plus, bail bondsmen are the ultimate local rent seekers. Yeah. Now, when it comes to Trump's military takeover, getting back to that whole thing, let me just note that no one asked for this. No one asked for it. The states didn't ask for it. D.C. didn't ask for it. Chicago, Illinois is not, they're not asking for it. In fact, here's Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker talking on X in a press release saying, the state of Illinois has, at this time, has received no requests or outreach from the federal government asking if we need assistance, and we have made no requests for federal intervention. Donald Trump is attempting to manufacture a crisis, politicize Americans who serve in uniform, and continue abusing his power to distract from the pain he's causing families. We'll continue to follow the law and stand up for the sovereignty of our state and protect Illinoisans. Now, you also had, in addition to Pritzker, Chicago's Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson, who said what the president is proposing would be the most flagrant violation of our Constitution in the 21st century. The city of Chicago does not need a military occupation. And there it is. Look, all of this entire idea of sending in the military to our cities to combat crime is just, it's dictator stuff. That's what it is. He is basically sending in the military to cities, or proposing sending in the military to cities that are run by the opposition. He's not sending notice. He's not sending the guards to Baton Rouge. Okay? Not sending him there. Which, by the way, they do have a higher crime rate than D.C. No, it's pretty clear, very, very clear, exactly what he is doing. And this has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with combating crime or protecting people. After all, the man himself is a 34 felony count criminal and may or may not have been, most likely is on the Epstein list. Okay. Moving on here. That's right. Release the Epstein files. Indeed. All right. Now, the Trump regime has federalized Washington's D.C. police force and has deployed the National Guard to patrol the streets of the nation's capital looking for criminals. Or are they? No, what they actually have done was spend a ton of money, taxpayer money, to have guardsmen and police go around harassing homeless people. That's the reality. Now, the irony of that, of course, is that many homeless people in this country are veterans. Not only that, but destroying encampments and relocating the people that are living there does not actually solve the issue of homelessness. It just moves people around. And so that's what's going on here, okay? And they're doing this, by the way, at a much greater cost than it would to just provide housing. Look, this is according to an investigation analysis published on Wednesday by Hannah Homestead of the National Priorities Project in collaboration with The Intercept. Now, they found that deploying the National Guard and getting rid of the slums, it actually costs us as taxpayers far more than it would to simply provide housing to every homeless person in the city. Oops. Whoopsie. I guess they, couldn't figure that one out, right?
Whoopsie.
Now, according to previous reporting, National Guard deployments actually cost the U.S. government, which is, we pay for that, about $530 per Guard member a day. Using that figure, Homestead estimated that it would cost just over $1.1 million for the 2,100 troops that will soon, if not already, be on patrol in the city. She added that the number of troops will likely continue to grow, and with no deadline for the DC deployment, those costs could add up for months or even years. So $1.1 million. So how much would it take to house the homeless? Again, let's look at the data. According to most recent data from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, there are about 5,600 people currently experiencing either sheltered and unsheltered homelessness in DC on a given night. Operating an affordable housing unit for each one of those people, the data shows, would cost about $45.44 per person per day on average in DC. So $530 per Guard member each day versus $45.44 per homeless person. That's a pretty big difference there. Pretty big difference. Look, if we were to provide affordable housing to every homeless person in DC, it would cost an estimated $255,166, or about 4.5 times less than the cost of Donald Trump's military deployment to DC. So, two options, right? Solve the problem cheaper or don't solve the problem and waste a bunch of money just to stick it to poor people. Which way, Western man? It's pretty obvious which way we're going, which way Trump has gone, but that's it. Now, Homestead said this, quote, taxpayers like you and me bear the cost of this cruel power grab. This militarized spending comes at the expense of federal programs like public housing that actually do prevent crime and improve health and education outcomes. Exactly, which is why they'll never do it. Okay, remember, the right wing will never do these things to help poor people because to them, being cruel to poor people is the point. The right wing, and yes, you also have liberals that are in there, because like, I remember years and years ago in Hawaii, you know, there was a Democratic senator, I believe, or congressman going around with like a sledgehammer smashing up homeless people's carts, their shopping carts where they have their belongings. Okay, so I mean, yes, it is liberals also that do this. Gavin Newsom breaking up these homeless encampments. Okay, and so yes, they do that. And so sadly, you have the right wing and liberals, many liberals, that conflate homelessness with criminality and just want them gone. It's the NIMBYs. Okay, now that's sad and disgusting, actually, because once again, when you look at it, the solutions are actually there. We're just refusing to do it. Now, Trump himself, by the way, continues to claim that Washington, D.C. has been overtaken by violent gangs, bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, okay, drugged out maniacs, and homeless people. Look, crime in D.C. is actually way down. Okay, not just in D.C., but all across the country. That's the reality of the situation. What Trump is doing is just literally trying to criminalize people for being poor. What works to solve the homelessness crisis is housing first. I mean, look, you give people a stable place to stay, no preconditions, and guess what? That actually helps people. That not only does that help people, but it also reduces crime. In fact, a 2021 study from UCLA found that providing homeless people with targeted housing assistance reduced the probability of committing crime by about 80%. That's amazing. 80%. An 80% reduction in the probability of someone committing a crime. I mean, that's massive. Massive. Yes, but if we do that, then how would we justify the massive police budgets? How would we justify the massive private prison profits, guys? Think of the industries. Think of the industries. Oh, and by the way, how if we do this, how can we keep the working class in line without threatening them with horrible homelessness and poverty? You see, that's the real reason. Okay, this is the reason that we do not solve homelessness is simply because they need a tool. The capitalist class needs a tool to ensure that workers stay in line. That's it. That's it. Be good little wage slaves. Okay, and continue being good. Don't step out of line, or else you will be the next person to be homeless and then criminalized. That's it. This is why we'll never do what, is both the right thing to do morally as well as fiscally, which is giving people homes. Okay. Jesse Rabinowitz of the National Homelessness Law Center adds, arresting or ticketing people for sleeping outside makes homelessness worse, wastes taxpayer money, and simply does not work. The solution to homelessness is housing and supports, not handcuffs and jails. Exactly. Now, this isn't the only thing that Trump has been doing that is making the problem worse. No. Big surprise, the Trump regime is also pushing to eliminate funding for public housing. Of course. The White House's proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 slashes the funding for HUD's Continuum of Care program, which provides cities with funding for initiatives to house homeless people. Of According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, the proposal would effectively end funding of permanent supportive housing for 170,000 residents and potentially increase the number of homeless people in the country by 36%. We currently live in a situation where people are barely hanging on by a thread. And they're doing so because, I mean, there's myriad different reasons. The fact that you have wages that have not kept up with inflation. You have, of course, people that are not able to afford homes because of private equity. Yes, private equity firms like BlackRock are buying up all the homes, the single-family homes, and then renting those homes out to people at increasingly higher prices. And you know what? If you can't afford that, then you're going to end up on the street. And if that happens, you're thrown into a for-profit prison at massive taxpayer expense. Notice, this is what happens. This is the reality of the situation. And it is evil. There is no other word for this system other than evil. We have, in this country, the capability of housing the homeless. And you know what? We just don't want to do it because, well, someone's not going to be able to profit off that. And, you know, again, we got to keep the homeless, or we got to keep the working class in line. That's it. I mean, that's the reality. It is 100% evil. That's what it is. Amber W. Harding, executive director of the Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless, says arresting people for no reason other than the fact that they have no home is inhumane and unjust. It is particularly cruel to do so, knowing that federal and local housing programs have been slashed and that D.C. does not have enough shelter beds. Finds arrests. This is Dana White, director of advocacy at Miriam's Kitchen, a D.C.-based homeless services organization, said, finds arrests and encampment evictions make homelessness worse, further traumatize our homeless neighbors while disconnecting them from community and support. If policing resolved homelessness, we wouldn't have homelessness here in D.C. or anywhere else in this country. Look, there's a lot of different reasons that I can say that we are currently an evil society. We are an evil society because our society, our government would rather prefer that people be punished for being poor than to just provide what people need to live. That's it. It's not like we don't have the resources. We do not have a scarcity issue. We have more food than we need. So it gets thrown away. And the dumpster's locked so that no one can get it. We have homes everywhere. Empty homes everywhere. While homeless people continue to be brutalized in the streets by militarized police forces. We are a society that is killing itself through rampant greed, which, when you look at it, makes Trump the perfect figurehead for it. Because I don't think that anyone personifies both greed and avarice and cruelty better than Trump. Okay. Well, I think that I think that we are as a society overall, right? Our societal goals and how we treat people as a society is overwhelmingly evil. And yes, it is run by the 1%. And we continue as a society to put them there. And so, yeah, right now, that doesn't mean that everyone in this society is evil. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of good people. But the society itself, the government itself, currently evil. Okay. Let's move on. A member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, Lisa Cook, is refusing to leave her post, to step down after President Donald Trump attempted to fire her over unproven allegations of mortgage fraud. Well, that's weird. Now, in a statement, Cook argued that the president has absolutely no authority to remove her from the post. In fact, she said this, quote, President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law, and he has no authority to do so, she said in a statement obtained by the news, obtained by News Nation. She added, I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I have been doing since 2022. So what exactly is going on here? Okay, well, last week, Trump called for Cook, who was appointed by former President Joe Biden in 2022, to resign following allegations by a Trump ally and the head of federal housing, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Pulte, that she had committed mortgage fraud. How did she do that? Allegedly. Well, apparently, or I should say allegedly, she had listed 2 primary residences in her documents. One in Michigan and another in Atlanta, or an Atlanta condo. Okay, so now Trump said that if she did not resign, if she didn't step down, that he would fire her, and then he signed an order allegedly firing her. Now, in his initial allegations, Pulte included some pictures of document signatures allegedly belonging to Cook that applied 2 different primary residences, one in Michigan, and as I mentioned, the condo in Atlanta. Now, that said, at the moment, Cook has not been charged with any crimes, any wrongdoing whatsoever. So why would she then step down? Exactly. Okay, there's really no reason. Now, the question, though, is, can he do this? Can he actually fire a Fed governor? Yes, but, and there's a big but there, okay? And I don't mean Trump. It is only for cause. What does that mean? Well, basically, to be fired for cause means being caught doing some serious misconduct or fundamentally breaching their employment contract and massively failing to perform their job duties. Okay? So now it really doesn't seem like anything that she is even alleged to have done would hit that standard. So no, I'm not buying it. Okay, what we think. Okay, we know what this is really about. Okay, this is about Donald Trump not getting his rate cut. Okay, this man desperately wants to lower the interest rates so that he can save money on his loans. And not only that, but he thinks, well, if they lower the interest rates, then maybe that'll spur some economic growth, which looks good for me. So I will personally save money, and it might help my polls, which are in the toilet right now. That's really it. Now, the thing is, the Federal Reserve won't do that because they think keeping rates high will help battle against inflation. And yes, of course, a lot of you in the comment section are also pointing out that, it's even easier than that because it's racism. Yes, I think that's the obvious thing. That's why I really don't need to, go in that direction, because it's very obvious that race also plays a factor in that. Of course, right? But I think it's not just race, because he does want the Federal Reserve to lower the interest rate so he can personally save money on his outstanding loans. And since they're not doing that, he points at the black lady and says, well, I'm just going to get rid of you then. And so, yes, it really kind of ties in both things really tie into this attempt to try to get rid of this Federal Reserve governor. And so, look, she is the first African-American Federal Reserve Board governor. And these claims of mortgage fraud are pretty thin. Okay, very, very thin. Yet Trump wrote in his letter to Cook I have determined that there is sufficient cause to remove you from your position. No, there's not, though. The Federal Reserve has tremendous responsibility for setting interest rates. It's right in there. And regulating Federal Reserve and member banks. The American people must be able to have full confidence in the honesty of the members entrusted with setting policy and overseeing the Federal Reserve. He added, in light of your deceitful and potentially criminal conduct in a financial matter, they cannot, and I do not have such confidence in your integrity. Again, it is really funny how he says that, considering this man had 34 felonies himself due to fraud. This guy defrauded a charity. And he's talking about, oh, man, we just can't trust you because of fraud. You know, oh, man, we can't have any, I don't have any confidence in you. Well, the American people do not have any confidence in you and your honesty. Your honesty. Man who lied over 30,000 times lecturing a black woman about honesty. Come on. Are you kidding me?
Really?
Give me a goddamn break. Now, look, Trump has stiffed numerous workers and companies out of money that he owed them. Stiffed states out of money. Remember for some of the police escorts and things that he had for his rallies? The costs associated? Yeah, he stiffed them out of money. Come on, give me a goddamn break. But this woman, for whatever reason, and it could have been a mistake, right? Or Bill Pulte could be lying, okay, and coming up with, manufacturing evidence, right? But for whatever reason, there is, the main residence and is two different properties. Oh man, that apparently. That's enough for me to fire you. Very, very thin. Very thin. Okay. Look, Cook has retained lawyer Abby Lowell, who said this. President Trump has taken to social media to once again fire by tweet, and once again his reflex to bully is flawed, and his demands lack any proper process, basis on or legal authority. We will take whatever actions are needed to prevent his attempted illegal action, which again would be firing this Fed governor, okay? Federal Reserve governor. Look, he wants her gone. I mean, and so that he can appoint his own lackey to do what he wants that person to do. Trump does not like the Federal Reserve's independence. Does not want the Federal Reserve to be independent of the presidency. He wants to control it through his appointees, like he has done to, unfortunately, many other agencies in the federal government. The big problem here for him is that when you mess with the Federal Reserve, you mess with people's money. You mess with the nation's money. And that's a big problem. Huge problem. As of now, the dollar this year alone has lost about 9% of its value. Almost 10%. And look, while the stock market is high, it is lagging behind other markets that are riding on the so-called AI bubble. And a lot of people are thinking that the AI bubble is probably going to pop here anytime soon. So messing with the Federal Reserve means messing with the dollar. And that is not going to be good for any of us. Okay. Look, the strength of the dollar as the world's reserve currency is threatened because of Donald Trump. And if we lose that, if they decide, you know what, we're no longer going to hold the dollar as the reserve currency of the world, we're going to switch to the euro, or we're going to switch to something else. If that happens, we as a country are absolutely fucked. Okay. So not good at all. Not good at all. So look, if Cook steps down, or if she gives up, or something happens, well, that's going to be seen across the world, because all the world the governments around the world are watching us. Economies all across the world are watching what happens here. If she is gone, if she is removed, that is going to be seen as an indication that the Federal Reserve is no longer independent. And the results of that will be absolutely disastrous. I hope she stays strong. I hope she continues to stand her ground. And I hope that she is able to prevail against the Mad King. Because if she doesn't, it is going to be bad for all of us. Okay. The main reason there's an AI bubble is because high finance have more money than they know what to do with. Yeah, and they've been just pumping it all into so-called AI. It's not even intelligence, really. These are just chat bots and chat models that have been trained to, spit out an answer, which is likely going to be wrong. Okay. I'm not saying that what we have now isn't or could not be useful. Of course, there are definitely ways that you can use it to enhance your work. But what's going on right now is, I read a report earlier today that there's a lot of entry-level jobs that are being eliminated as a result of AI. Now, you've got Gen Z, people who are getting out of college that would rely on getting those jobs. But they're gone now. And and of course, to get, some of the other jobs that are available in the company, you've got to have 5 years of experience. And guess what you can't get if you don't have those entry-level jobs. So, that's gonna be really, really bad for Gen Z graduating and trying to enter the workforce, because there will not be any of these entry-level jobs at all. Because these companies have shoved AI on everyone. Not good. So, yeah, bad things are coming. Okay. But I will leave you off on a slightly good note here, and that is fighting against partisan gerrymandering. Ooh. In what is a pretty big victory for voters in Utah, as well as democracy, a judge has just struck down the state legislature's gerrymandered congressional maps, and in its place has reinstated the citizen-led redistricting reforms that voters had approved back in 2018. So Judge Diana Gibson ruled on Monday that the Utah legislature's repeal of Proposition 4, the voter-approved Independent Redistricting Commission and anti-gerrymandering law, was unconstitutional. Nice. Proposition 4 is the law in Utah on redistricting, HB 2004, the 2021 congressional map, which was not enacted under SB 200, and not Proposition 4, cannot lawfully govern future elections in Utah, Gibson wrote. Use of HB 2004, the 2021 congressional map, in any future elections is hereby enjoined. Now, that basically means that the ruling has permanently blocked the use of the Republican-drawn 2021 congressional maps that had split up Salt Lake County into 4 districts, which dilutes the power of non-Republican voters. Gibson added that the legislature intentionally stripped away all of Proposition 4's core redistricting standards and procedures that were mandatory and binding on it. To permit the 2021 congressional plan to remain in place would reward the very constitutional violation this court has already identified and would nullify the people's 2018 redistricting reform. And there you go. Now, the court has also ordered lawmakers to redraw Utah's congressional districts under the rules of Proposition 4. They have until September 24th to deliver a new compliant plan. If they fail, or if the new maps do not meet the law standards, plaintiffs and other groups may submit their own maps for the courts to consider. Look, I think that this is actually a pretty big deal, especially given the context of what Texas is currently attempting to do. Remember, they have approved a map that would give Republicans 5 additional seats by splitting up minority districts. And they did so, of course, without even waiting for the census in 2030 because Donald Trump is afraid of losing seats. Now, of course, what's interesting about the Texas maps is that they may have actually, on accident, created a dummy mander, which would actually make 10 seats swing seats. Oops. In trying to get 5 more seats for themselves, they endanger 10 others. Might have. Which, again, a little bit of a whoopsie, if it turns out to be that way. But, look, Republicans, thanks to Trump, they're getting a little greedy, and it could blow up in their face. Which would be hilarious, but at the same time, Texas should have never done this, okay? But look, the reality of the situation is Donald Trump does not care for democracy, and here you have Republicans that are enacting his will because they also don't care about democracy. Look, Republicans at this point would rather much choose their voters than having to reach out to win more votes. I mean, that's what gerrymandering is. That's what gerrymandering has always been about, choosing your own voters instead of having to compete to have the voters choose you. Now, that said, you might be like, well, but what about Gavin Newsom? Well, for one, I don't much like Gavin Newsom. So if you want to talk crap about him in the audience, in the comment section, cool. I'm totally fine. I'm fine with that, right? He's thrown trans people under the bus, homeless people under the bus, and so I'm not exactly his biggest fan. But let's be very, very clear about Gavin Newsom, right? He told Texas, you might want to not do your extremely partisan gerrymandering maps, okay? You take your maps back and you draw a fair map, but if you don't, then yes, I'm going to do my own partisan gerrymandering. Texas refused, and now Newsom's like, all right, well, game on, motherfucker. Okay, what Gavin Newsom is doing on this issue is fighting fire with fire. And I'm okay with that, all right? Again, I don't like being here at this point. I don't like seeing this happen. I don't like I don't like any government, whether it be Democrat or Republican, doing this whole redistricting thing to benefit themselves. I hate this idea, right? But understand that if one side is not going to follow the rules, then why should the other side? Why should the other side? And so if you are going to fight dirty in order to protect an alleged criminal pedophile president and his enablers, then don't expect people to sit back and let it happen. And that's what's going on here. Okay. And so, yes, I as much as I do not like Gavin Newsom or his, him standing to try to be basically the presidential nominee for 2028, I enjoy his trolling. I'm having fun with it. I like to see it. I like when someone actually stands up and fights against Donald Trump. Whether it be performative or not, all politics basically is performative. But when you have him actually saying, all right, well, you're going to partisan gerrymander, then I'm going to partisan gerrymander. All right, great. Let's do it. That's all I'm saying here. Okay. But anyway, look, I'm glad that the judge in Utah is throwing out these massively gerrymandered maps. At the end of the day, I believe that independent redistricting is a better way to go. I mean, if we all had independent redistricting, then this would have never been an issue in the first place. This would have never happened in Texas because that independent redistricting, effort, the commission would have been like, I'm sorry, but no, you're going to have to wait till 2030. You can't do this. And then gone. All right. So what Texas is doing is showing you why every state that hasn't created one already should adopt an independent redistricting, commission. Maybe similar to Utah, because apparently they did something right there. Utah is a bit of a mixed bag. They're a red state, but sometimes on some issues, they actually do rather well. I mean, at one point, they actually provided homes to homeless people, and it was a massive success. And then, of course, they pulled back on it because they're Republicans, and they, don't really care about solving the real issue. Okay? But, again, this is a great example of what we, should be doing. The system working as it should to protect voters and to not dilute voters, the voting power of, people in cities. Because I don't want to see anybody's voting power diluted, right? But again, if you have these Republican politicians that are going in and trying to do this incredibly partisan gerrymandering in order to not have to be, held accountable to the voters, well, then, yeah, I want to see those things absolutely defeated. And I want to see more independent redistricting and it's amazing that this, entire thing has existed since the 1800s and hasn't been solved yet. And of course, the reason that it hasn't been solved is because there are politicians that just do not want to give away the power that they have in choosing their own voters. And so I'm hoping that going forward in the future, we can find a way to ensure that all the congressional maps are drawn fairly so that, yes, we choose our representatives and not the other way around. That was part of the proposed John Lewis Act. Yes, and we can see what happened with that because you have a Republican Party that does not care at all about democracy. They actively hate it. Okay. Anyway. For president, I don't know, maybe a different office first. If he doesn't get brownie points for actually doing an entertaining job at the end, where was all this energy the rest of the years? That's a good question. Where was this energy? Where were the rest of the Democrats? And by the way, where is the rest of the Democratic Party? There are a few that are fighting, Crockett, Bernie, AOC, Newsom, and a few others, but where's the rest of them? Where's Chuck Schumer? Because I don't really see, other than a few strongly worded letters, a whole lot of fight from those people. Fight from Hakeem Jeffries, who basically was like, I don't know, what can we do? What leverage do we have? I don't know, but you can stand up and fight. That's all people are asking for, is just do something, stand up and fight. Okay. Anyway. Oh, yeah. By the way, the person that is trolling Trump using Newsom's account, I forget her name, but she is a young woman. And so, there it is. Young woman taking down Donald Trump and trolling him with his own medicine. And it is beautiful. Just beautiful. So she deserves all the credit, and I wish I could remember her name, but for me, names are hard, and I have a hard time remembering them sometimes. But anyway, you should definitely look her up. Who is writing these posts and tweets that Newsom's account is using, because it's beautiful, and she deserves all the credit that she can. And again, it's ironic that, of course, I forget her name. Because that's what happens. But anyway. All right. We have to understand the crucial differences between neoliberal Democrats and progressives. Yes, absolutely. You don't like my music. That is perfect. Okay. Anyway, PJ says there is no left. The world has gone fascist. We're there. The left is here. It's just that we're way out in the wilderness right now because we've been put there by not only the right wing, but also the Democratic Party that has refused to really kind of, include us in this big tent, and you can see that with Mamdani and the Democratic Party refusing to endorse him still, even after he won his primary. And so, you've got examples like that all over where progressives, people who are on the left side of the spectrum, continue to be ignored by Democratic leadership. I mean, look, in Michigan, by the way, right now there is a primary. Abdul Al-Sayed is running, who is a progressive. Mallory McMurrow running against him. And then, of course, you have someone who is funded by AIPAC, of course. Guess which one establishment Democrats will rally around? Exactly. Okay, anyway. That's all I got today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Consider becoming a member by hitting the join button below if you're on YouTube, or becoming a supporter if you're on Facebook or on Twitch. There are a lot of different ways to support the show. You can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. Look, I need your help more than ever to continue to fight against this horrible fascist government and to promote progressive leftist ideals, such as helping homeless people, giving them homes. That's the kind of policy I'm looking for. Universal health care, an expanded Medicare for all, as put forward by someone like Senator Bernie Sanders, for example, which was an incredibly comprehensive plan to fix our healthcare system and to make sure that people are, healthy. And we could do so cheaper than our current system. There are definitely ways that you can do a lot of things better in this country, but understand that there are moneyed interests that continue to get in the way. And that ultimately has to be who we fight against, the moneyed interests, whether it comes from the far right or the liberal establishment. We have to take on those moneyed interests, or else we are not going to get any kind of government that represents us, because they're going to continue to represent those very same interests. So that's why we need independent progressive media. No poly market here, okay? No Raid Shadow Legends, just you guys and gals and everything in between supporting independent progressive media, keeping us independent, keeping us voices like mine and others on the air. That's all I'm asking for. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind paying more for taxes for universal health care. I'm down for that. Yes, and it would actually save us money too. No co-pays, premiums, or deductibles in a system like that. And so, yeah, it would actually save us a lot of money. But what about wait times? Has anyone making that argument ever actually made an appointment with a specialist? Because it takes months. It takes months to see someone, a specialist. Now, in emergency care, the countries with universal health care, they'll see you if it's an emergency. But again, the wait times really only exist if you're seeing a specialist. And so that lie just needs to go away. It is an industry talking point, and it's just not true. Okay. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everyone. I will be on this space tomorrow for the Wednesday show, thisface.tv over on YouTube. It is a YouTube channel, thisface.tv. So check that out tomorrow, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I believe that Boston Brian, from a contributor to Midas Touch, will be before me. So, and then, of course, following me afterwards, it's another show, Andrew Ravensky. All right, so check it out, though. Thisface.tv tomorrow, Wednesday, 2 p.m. I'll see you there.